Open the chat.
You shouldn't miss any of.
Close the window that pops up that talks to me. Okay.
Good morning.
Morning. Had to go get some water. What happens when you have back to back of these calls? But we'll let. Okay, looks like we got all our people that we're talking to on. We'll wait a couple minutes and see. Let other people kind of jump on before we get started, sort of thing. If you don't know, I'm Chelsea. I'm one of the coaches. I'm hosting today because Megan is down at a competition with her daughter. So she wasn't going to be somewhere where she could go live very well. Because her daughter does twirls and does competitions with it. So she is, I think she's down in like Florida with it, but I might be wrong on that one. Don't quote me on that one. But I know that's where she is. She's at competition. It might be the one that's at Disney. I might though. Don't know if that's this one or it was another one. She goes to a few, so I think she does pretty good. But just giving people a few minutes to hop on. We're going to hear a few people's stories today, and not mine because you've already heard mine. So we're going to hear some other people's stories.
We could listen again.
It's always nice to hear from other people because everyone's path's a little different and see what if you can learn anything from that sort of thing, or if you resonate with one person's, oh, I'm like them, I can do this sort of thing. But I do have the chat open, so if you have any questions or anything, feel free to put it in the chat. But we have 3 people here today. We have Abel, Cheryl, and Jeremiah here to tell their stories, and tell how they started their business and when they started, why they started, how they started, and where they are now, and how coaching businesses for success has helped them also. So I think I'll just start with Abel. Maybe we'll go alphabetical by first name. It's what I do in BNIs. My Aaron is always like, I'm always going to be first. I'm like, yep, you're AA.
I had a feeling I was going to be first.
We're already unmuted. It worked.
Yeah, I need to be quiet sometimes, I think. Okay, Abel Castaneda. I actually created the LLC about a year ago, July 3rd. So I'm actually at my 1-year anniversary of the business being created. I've been doing bookkeeping for approximately 5 years, so for a small construction company. Now, why did I build my business? I realized that, oh, I could do this for more people. But remember, I started 5 years ago. I could have done this maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but I was overthinking a lot. And I finally pulled the trigger last year, and I'm glad I did. There's multiple reasons on the why. One, just because corporate life is good, but I'm growing and meeting so many people that it's rewarding that way. The networking portion is something that I love. Um, so getting out of the corporate life and almost doing it on my own, and I'll explain what I mean by almost here in a second, is definitely it's rewarding, and also starting your own business can be stressful as well. So if anybody says, "Oh, it's easy to be a bookkeeper," I'm going to say yes and no. I don't believe it is, but if you have the right team around you, then you can definitely do it. And I always believe in creating that team around me. So that goes to CPAs. And what I felt was important was like the bookkeeping blueprint, to be able to bounce ideas and not just speaking into the void, not just using AI, getting people with experience. And that's kind of what helped me. Um, so yeah, I've been doing it for approximately 1 year. The way I get my clients, I see that a lot on Facebook. How do you get your clients? For me, it's networking. I've had the opportunity to network with the Entrepreneurship Center here in my town, as well as there's a college extension. It's a UNL extension. And a lot of new business owners go through there. It's a free service where they set up LLCs. And I've had the opportunity to present and honestly create friends around there. And a lot of my clients are referrals. Now, the other question that I think people would have is how many clients do you have? I counted it because you lose some and not. So I have 6 clients. So I'm still growing. And the reason why I said kind of on my own, I'm also reached out to a CPA, to network. Well, he took it a step further that I didn't expect. He actually wanted to hire me on to do some of the books for some of his clients. So I'm kind of have a foot in both areas. My business, where he understands if I need to adjust my schedule and not work with him, or if I'm slowing down, I can jump into the W-2 world and help him out and get him caught up as well. So it's all about relationships. I think I'll stop there. That's kind of a little bit about me.
Yeah, that's having those relationships is always good. And CPAs are probably the CPAs or any kinds of tax preparers, probably one of those biggest referral relationships. But it sounds like you got a great that whole
Network. Yeah.
network for like new business owners is a great
Yeah.
little resource there too. That's a great thing that's local to you. Do you do most of your like networking like in person sort of thing?
In person. So there's a small business event coming up in August, for example. So I get to have a booth there and it's free. There's a
Nice. Usually boosts cost.
Yeah, there's one that's called Grow Nebraska, and I was able to have a booth there and met a lot of people. Actually, the other point I wanted to get across as I was thinking about this is if you're thinking about getting started, the one thing I realized is there's so many people just wanting to help you out. So if you're scared, just start talking to people. They're going to provide advice or a referral to somebody who can help you. Um, and it's amazing how many people just want to help. So,
Yes. And if you're stuck, like, um, our coaching program will help you with mindset and marketing and stuff like that too, if that's something that's holding you back. So, um, and strategies but there's lots of people. Everyone likes to help other people and have someone that they can help, sort of.
yeah.
So,
May I talk to why I actually enrolled in coaching?
yeah, tell us
Coaching?
that.
Um, I actually got introduced by these type of calls because it's the free call, right? Every Thursday. And what resonated with me was I had a question, and you could tell everyone in here cared more than just getting you into the membership, right? They want you to succeed, and I could tell that they wanted you to succeed. And that's what I resonated with. They provided so much value for free. I'm like, if it's free, imagine if I'm able to connect with them more on an ongoing basis. And I've been able to get challenged um, by Sherry. And what I mean by that is there was a question that still resonates to me today is she's like, are you hiding behind reports? Meaning, oh, I'm so busy doing this versus getting out there and promoting my business. So it's not just the one, two, three type of thing. It's also the mindset and then challenging you so you are successful. So
Yeah, we definitely, when we form this group, we're thinking of how we can help y'all. That's why we have different options, sort of things. Um, because we wanted to help everyone where they were hurting the most, sort of thing. So
yeah,
it's definitely was our mindset when we were forming this group with all of us. Anybody have any questions for him before we move off? I mean, we can always have questions at the end too. If you can't talk, I do have the chat up. You can always put a question in the chat if you have a question for. And where you said you're in Nebraska? Is that where you
Russ,
are?
yeah. My
Sometimes people like
clients,
to know that.
yeah. I'm glad you asked that. I actually have a client out of the Bahamas. I had a client
Nice.
out of Pennsylvania, and that was actually through referrals as well as the person that referred, she lives in Canada. So, so
That's the
that's
nice thing about being virtual. Like I tell people when I'm networking all the time, like a lot of my clients are local because of just networking. But I
mhm,
have clients in other states, yes, and that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I just have to be able to do tech.
yes.
I don't got anyone as far as the Bahamas. That one beats me a little bit. Um, anything else you want to say before we
I think I'm done, but I have a feeling I'll chime in sometime.
and like I said, if anyone has any questions specifically for Abel, you can type up or put it in the chat, or we'll have questions at the end you can ask everyone also. So don't be shy about that. Okay.
Thank you.
Cheryl, you want to tell us your story?
Sure. So hi everyone, I am Cheryl, or I guess my name is, I sound like a robot. I am Cheryl. But so I like a way different story than Abel's. So I went to college for business. So I have my degree is in general business, but I have minors in accounting, marketing, and management. And after college, I went to work for a regional accounting firm. And Abel and I have that in common, where the accounting firm I worked at was in Omaha, Nebraska. So I worked there for a few years, and then I left there and I went to work for a property management firm. Sorry, my assistant joins me on all calls, so she is now like, it's my time to shine. So working virtually, this is what you get. So I went to work for a property management firm where I did two things for them. So we had a like obviously property management, and part of that is we did the bookkeeping because we had a lot of investors that had properties. So we would provide the bookkeeping for them, and then we had a construction management division. So I handled the bookkeeping for the different projects of the construction that we were building. So I did that for about 6 years, and then I stayed home and had children. So I think a lot of women and moms can relate to this. My husband works in an industry where he travels a lot. And so, like, I guess when you have children, somebody has to keep them alive. And that defaulted to me because I was the person that was here in the flesh. So I stayed home with my children for 18 years and did not work at all, other than keeping humans alive. So yeah, you're like, that's a job. I mean, I did things where I was like president of the PTA and did all those kinds of things, but for like a work outside the home job, I did not until my youngest was going into middle school, my oldest was going to college. And my husband was like, so that job thing, like, is now a good time to talk about that? And I was like, yeah, that's going to be a hard pass for me. And so it was like, well, we got to do something. But even though kids get older, they still, in my opinion, there's still a lot of caring that goes into them. Like my kids weren't driving. So for sports and stuff, like who's going to give them to practices, who's going to take them to the doctor, who's going to take them to the dentist, who stays home when they're sick, what do you do when there's a snow day? Like all of parents, like you can scramble and you make it work. But it was like, I had been a stay-at-home mom. So I was like, I'm still going to do that. So I needed the flexibility where I could use my brain again and like kind of focus on me for a little bit and still be available for my family. So I thought back to like what I love to do, and pretty much the only thing I had ever done was bookkeeping. So I went back to that, but things significantly changed in 18 years. Like obviously the basics and the principles of accounting don't change, but the technology had changed, like the whole marketing thing, like everything had changed. I'd never had to get my own clients. I had never had to do any of that before. Um, and so I kind of was like, I know I want to do this, but I don't know how to do this. And so fortunately, like I had been in a different bookkeeping group like a few years ago. So I guess back up, like my business, I'm in my third year of business. And in my county, I'm in Northern Virginia outside of Washington, D.C. So I said my third year of business for 2024 and 2025, we have something in our county called Best of Loudon. So my firm is a finalist, which means I came in second place, which is fine with me. I'm always like, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And I'm happy to be that way, to fly under the radar and just not have all the attention. But so I've given that honor for 2 years. So I guess it tells me I'm doing something right in my business, and it's meeting a need for the community of the people like Abel. So I have 27 clients that I work with directly. I do something similar, like you said, you kind of checked into the university in the area where they have like the small business program. So my county has a development, like a Loudoun County economic development. So they focus on all sorts of economic development in our county and within the Northern Virginia region. And they decided they wanted to offer QuickBooks training because they knew that was kind of a lot of people in small businesses. They just hear QuickBooks, they see QuickBooks, but they're like, oh, okay, but I don't know how to use it. So they have hired me. That's where I was this morning before this. I teach a monthly class for them to the community, and it's free. So anybody who wants to join, they can join. And I teach a class on how to use QuickBooks. But that has really kind of opened up opportunities. And like you talked about too, Abel, like networking. And that's how I met them. Like I did not seek them out. They did not technically seek me out. We just happened to both be at an event for small business owners. And they were like, hey, like they just heard me mention, like I work in QuickBooks. And so they were like, would you ever be interested in doing this? And I was like, no, that's not what I do. But then I was like, just say yes, like be open to opportunities, say yes to different things, because you never know what's going to happen. So it has turned into a 3-year long contract. So I do have a contract. I do get paid monthly from them. So it's a nice kind of like regular occurring thing that is like beyond bookkeeping, but it's still bookkeeping. And a lot of times, not a lot, but sometimes, like when people learn what goes into it, they're like, oh, heck no, I'm not going to do this. They're like, and how much is it you charge for you to do the bookkeeping for me every month? So again, like I didn't foresee that kind of, when they initially approached me, was like, I don't know. But I did open that. But how the group has helped me, like I said, staying home for 18 years. If any moms are on here and they have stayed home, like you kind of lose yourself in that process. You like live your life for other people for all that time. You're like, a lot of times you don't get to eat what you want to eat. You don't get to do what you want to do. You don't go where you want to go. Like it's your whole life is. And so you kind of stop forgetting how to do what you want to do or live your life and kind of do that thing. So I had a lot of confidence issues, like self-confidence issues, where I was like, I don't know if I could still do this. Like, I don't know. And they're like, is this a joke? Because you like literally went to school for 4 years to do this and you have this experience. But it just gets in your head. So like Abel talked a lot about, like Sherry, like the mindset calls are huge where you can like hop on and be like, I don't know, like there's this client, I don't think I can do that. And they're like, are you serious? So, and the group has like a wide range of coaches and even just beyond coaches, like other people in the group that are in industries that are not specific to yours. So if something kind of comes across your radar and you're like, I don't want to say no right off the bat. I want to say maybe, and then go to the group and be like, does anybody have anybody in this industry? Like, what are the kind of pros and cons? What are the things I should be looking out for? So it just kind of expands your horizons to what all is out there. So I think that's what I do, and that's how I do it.
Yeah, I know that whole community thing has really helped you because you've done one-on-one training with that too and gotten some client like
yeah. So as part of the training I do, if they attend the class, like my county gives them a free subscription to QuickBooks and they pay me for my time. So they will pay me for 5 hours of whatever my hourly rate is, which we won't talk about that. But they will pay me they each get 5 hours. So everybody attends the class. So they pay me a flat fee for teaching every month. And then the hourly rate for all of the people. If they want to use all 5 hours, then that's 5 hours
And
say
then
there's 10
sometimes they're
people
just
in the
like,
room,
never
that's 50
mind.
hours that I'm being paid for.
Yeah. And
to do
sometimes
that.
they're like, never mind, you do it.
Right. Right. Yeah. And some people, yeah, they just get started and they're just like, I can't do this, or some people do try it for a while. And as their business picks up, because a lot of them are just starting their businesses, but you're always top of mind going into marketing. They go
Yeah.
into my funnel, they get my emails, so if down the
They already
road they've
trust
grown
you.
and they're like, I can't do this anymore. Oh, wait a minute. Here's an email from Cheryl. That's right. She does bookkeeping.
Yeah. And
kind
if
of
you
thing.
already
So-
helped them kind of set up sort of thing, you've been on their radar. They know they can trust you. They know you're
Right.
not just some spam.
Right, just
person
person
you
coming
don't know.
in. Yeah, and similar to Abel, I do a lot of in-person marketing. I don't do a lot of online or whatever it's called. I was like, listen, I'm an old lady. I can't like whatever it's called on here.
Gotta find what works for you.
Right. So I do a lot of in-person networking, which I think helps, especially in the financial industries. It helps build like a trust and a relationship that's already there when people get to meet you. Like, like you've met someone and either you're like, something's pinging on my radar, or you're like, this is not going to work for me. And other things, like you feel a connection with somebody. So you're already kind of establishing that, and it gets you a lot farther than what you get when you're. So don't be afraid of the in-person networking. It's scary at first, but you get over it really fast.
Yeah, you definitely have to find what works for you. And sometimes that in person is just better. And sometimes online is better, just kind of what works for you sort of thing. I just had a thought and now it's gone out of my head.
It'll come back to you.
Yeah. In person. Oh, you said like the mindset calls and everything are really good for you, have been really good because we do have part of our group, we have a mindset call. It's Wednesday. Yeah, it's
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays usually. Megan did have to cancel because she was out of town this week, but
Right.
she'll be back next week. And I think a lot of times with those mindset calls, we've been going through books, and you'll have like a couple chapters you can like read or listen to on audio, and then just kind of focus. But then I know it goes off and whatever needs to be helped. But I know like even with you having all the bookkeeping background, you've jumped on calls with weird one-off situations with like me or other coaches too, and we've helped you. And sometimes it's just getting that other set of eyes on a issue helps too.
There was a lot for me, like I said, from so long ago. Like I understand, I could pretty much like, I'm not from like the 1800s, but like I can handwrite everything. Like I understand the debits and credits. Like I know the ledgers, but then like, because software is doing so much of that behind the scenes for you, that was really hard for me because like I just have trust issues apparently, because I was like, I just don't trust this is doing it correctly. So I like always am in QuickBooks where like the transaction, I'm like, show me the transaction journal. I need to see the debit and the credit. I need to know what's happening here to understand. And that's how my brain works, which a lot of newer bookkeepers who don't have that kind of training, that foundation, because we learned in the olden days, they're like, I don't need to see that. I know what's happening in the software. So there was a lot of like the course that helped me with that too. I guess learn QuickBooks enough where I can apply it. I can teach it to other people now.
Yeah, I kind of have a mixture because I got a little bit of that, like, because I have an associate's business. So I have a little bit of that accounting background sort of thing. But I also have all my clients on QuickBooks, and I'll tell people, like, I've been in other softwares and the accounting concepts are the same, but I get mad because I don't know where to click.
Right. So I do work in other softwares because at the end of the day, like, especially when you have the foundation there, they are all doing the same thing. They're just presenting it differently. It just takes time. Yeah. So I'm like, once I'm like, okay, I know what needs to happen. I just need to know how to make the software do it.
Yeah. If you know the behind why it's happening, sometimes that's always good. Right. Abel says, what software do you work with? So I have all mine on QuickBooks Online. What do you have all yours? Okay. You said you have
I have mine. Yeah, I have most of mine are on QuickBooks. Some of them are on Xero. And I have one on a legal specific software. It's called Cosmolex. So it's just.
Yeah, sometimes there's those like legal ones I've known that have had specifics. There's also some real estate specific ones too out there. So, but Zero's one that's Zero's really popular in like Europe.
Yep.
And it's getting a little more popular over here. I think QuickBooks.
So it's based out of New Zealand.
But...
So they use the British English, like in the everything is like organization is spelled with an S and not a Z. So those kinds of things. But yeah, and
accounting's going to be
a lot of times like bookkeeping, like in Canada and I think the UK, if not all of Europe, like bookkeeping is regulated. And that you have to have like certificate, like actual legit certifications and things like that. So it is slightly different in how you can perform functions in it, but you can understand, like it's not hard to learn.
There are in other countries certifications you have to be a bookkeeper, but in the United States there's not.
Right.
But
I need to find a client in the Bahamas like Abel, so I can be like, oh, I'm sorry, you need in-person training. Oh, no worries, I'll be right down there for that. So I'm going to need a business expense to the Bahamas. No problem. Like, I got to figure out how to make that work.
That's the goal. If I hit my goals by the end of the year.
Right, you'll be in the Bahamas. Yeah, when we see you start missing calls, we'll be like, he's in the Bahamas. We know where he is.
Yeah. So anything else you want to tell everybody, or you think you hit all the points? You think?
I think I got it all. I think it's just, even if you've been doing it for a long time, it's you're always going to encounter something new, and like it can be a very lonely job. Like, oh, I guess I do have contractors, so I do have contractors that work for me, just like you do too, Chelsea. Sorry, she heard me talking. She's like, I'm
one of them. She's one of the contractors, right?
Right. Yes, I do have. I have some paid contractors, some that are paid in treats and food, but like that do not get dollar amounts. But so I do have that. So that was like a huge thing because like I don't know how to hire people. Like I've never done that before, but there's people like in the group that have come before me that have done that. So I could either spend a lot of time trying to figure it out or just go straight here and be like, hey, how should I be doing this? What's the best way? Like, what are the pitfalls? Like just give me a roadmap here to follow instead of like, because obviously if you're hiring people, that means you're busy and you're like, I don't have time to sit here and figure out all the ins and outs of everything. So that's been helpful.
And we can help with that, whether you need to hire contractor or mine were contractors and I've moved them over to employees, sort of thing. But we can kind of help you, guide you in the path for that too, sort of thing. So, because we've been there before, sort of thing. It's always, and like you said, being, a at-home virtual bookkeeper is a lonely job. So having that ability to have someone else you can jump on calls with for mindset marketing, or like our co-working call that was just before I hosted a co-working call just before this. And it's, if you got questions, let's talk about that and work on that. But we also talked about our kids and grandkids, and I showed him my new puppy who is sleeping at my feet right now, sort of thing. So you also just get some of that community that you don't get because you're at home by yourself. I mean, I get a little bit because my husband works from home and my employees are my sister and brother-in-law who live with us. So I get a little bit.
Right. So like, so my husband is a CPA, he's non-practicing, but, and he hasn't done accounting work in probably 20, 25 years. And so that's what, there were so many times like I'm like, I'll just talk to my husband. I'll just be like, okay, so I'm running into this situation. Like, how would you handle this? And he was like, I literally remember nothing, like nothing. He was like, I could not pass. Like, I'll show him something. It'll be like, I have no idea what this even is. Like, why are you showing this? So even though you have people, like, they may not, and maybe that's not the best for a marriage either, where you're just like,
every marriage is different.
Right. Yeah. Where you're like, maybe you should be like, just figure this out. I can't figure this out. Yeah. It's probably not the best. But yeah, so even though you have people in your life there, sometimes you just want somebody who's like an expert or, quasi expert, or has just seen it before and has been like, have you thought of this? Have you thought, like, I have a mindset call just because, an example of that is I have a client who desperately needs bookkeeping, and I cleaned up. He had prior year stuff that I had to clean up, and so I gave him a quote for ongoing. And he's like, I just can't afford it. He's like, I can't do this. So Sherry and I have talked about like, let's book a call. She was like, let me kind of deep dive into his books and see if we can come up with like some creative strategies. Like, can he pay monthly? Can he just be on, or not monthly? Obviously, all mine are monthly. But she was like, for his cash flow, would it make more sense if he like, could he pay weekly? Could he just break it out into weekly chunks, just auto bill him and do it that way? So I love that where because my head is like, well, okay, like in the past I would have been like, don't worry, I'll like lower my prices, and I was like, don't do that. Like that's a mistake.
Mhm.
Like it's a trap that you fall into fast, and it's a quick and fast slide down, and it's hard to climb back out of. So at least I didn't do that. That's progress that I've learned in this group is don't do that. But they're still willing to help you. Like, let's look at this. Is there a creative strategy? Can we look at like when he's busier? Can you be like, for these months, you're going to pay twice as much. For these months, you'll just pay half of what you normally, and that will help with like cash flow and kind of stuff like that. So I love that. So she and I are going to brainstorm on that. So you get to a point in your business, like once you kind of figure out the basics and you do that, and there's just a lot of strategy and brainstorming that you need, which people go and hire coaches. But with this group, I feel like you kind of get the best of both worlds. You can kind of get both sides of it, like the starting, and you guys can grow and scale with our businesses as we're growing and scaling.
Yeah, and we have so many different coaches that have so much different experiences that there's probably someone who has at least done something like that that can help you, or has been in that exact spot that it's like, yeah, I can do that. And we as coaches have like a group chat if like one of us is like, is someone else better for this sort of thing? And we'll do that with even questions that people will post, be like, I don't want to tell them wrong. I haven't run into this. Has anyone else run it? And we'll have another coach jump in, sort of thing. So that's a great thing of having so many different coaches. Because I'll be the first to tell you, don't jump on like a nonprofit call with me. I will tell you to go somewhere else.
Right.
Sort of thing. So, but you got like Bonnie, who she'll be able to tell you everything about that those nonprofits and a lot of other stuff. Bonnie's a wealth of knowledge.
Right. I know. She pretty much has the IRS tax code memorized. Probably give her another week for all the changes that just happened, but she's got it. She can be like, IRS regulation, blah, blah, blah. And you're like,
I don't know how
what in the heck is happening right now? Yeah.
She's good about finding all that information and having a link to give to you too, sort of thing.
Right.
But yeah, if y'all have any questions specific for Cheryl, feel free to put in the comments. Otherwise, we'll have questions for everyone at the end. But I guess it's time for Jeremiah to tell his story.
It's been awesome listening. As Cheryl said, it can be lonely being a business owner sometimes. So it's always nice to, just hear you guys, hear other business owners in the same space. So it's always refreshing to be like, yeah, just resonate. But I do have to say, being a mom, absolutely, like that's the hardest job in the world. I work, obviously work from home, but my wonderful wife, we have 4 kiddos now. And she's, it's just like, I feel bad sitting here. I'm like, I'm drinking a cup of coffee, working on books. It almost feels unfair, and she, it's totally just such a hard job. So, but such a wonderful job. So anyway, I was just thinking about that. And pricing, I love that you talk about pricing, Cheryl. I made the mistakes early on with another coach, not Bookkeeper Blueprint, but at the time they said, it's okay. Just, start them at $99 a month. And wow, I would never do that now. I would never tell anybody that. Don't ever start books if you can help it. Don't. It's not worth your time. I had somebody I remember started $150 a month, and they never wanted to listen to a thing I said, even though I knew what I was talking about. So it's just not worth it. So pricing is so key because you really do want to price what you're worth. And Sherry and Megan and the coaches have been so critical in that, because that was something I struggled with of, okay, do I price off revenue? Do I price off of this person said, or do I price off this? And Sherry finally was like, why don't you just use the calculator? Just commit to using it for a while. And I've used that, and it kept me so consistent. And then I've adjusted it, especially for my industry. There's a few things that I do that are not, that needed to be a little bit higher rates and things like that, especially for billing, because it's not just straight, not as specific, not like what you would think for basic bills where you just go in and pay the bill. There's some other nuances to it. And so things like that where I'm like, I'm not charging you $1 bill. I'm charging you $25 a bill because it makes more sense with the work that we're doing, you know? So, but having that baseline of just saying, hey, just commit to this for the next 2 months of using the calculator. And this was probably a year ago. And it was the best advice I could have gotten because I just needed that. I needed this something that could keep me consistent and then build from there. And because I was all over the place, I was like, well, that doesn't feel right, or this doesn't, you know, I was too emotional about the pricing. And so just having that advice and that sounding board is so critical. And sorry, I kind of jumped into the weeds, but so I started my business technically in 2021. It's when I formed my LLC. And I really didn't, I had signed one client within that year, but I was really kind of kicking the can down the road, didn't really believe in myself, didn't believe in the process, didn't follow the process. I was like, you know, and my wife was upset because I spent money, you know, to go and be part of these courses. I was actually part of a different coaching program and then joined Bookkeeper Blueprint, which was the best thing I could have done. But, you know, just had such a mindset issue. And I was finally reached out to Megan and Sherry. I was like, hey, you know, I was on a date night with my wife and you know, we were talking about it. She's like, you know, is this really working? You know, I think I had 2 clients at the time, real small. And then one of them said, hey, we can't afford you. We're running into a tough time. And so I was like starting to spiral, like, great. Now I'm losing the only clients that I had. And this was back in 2022. So it had been about a year. And she's like, you know, because I was doing it trying, you know, I was working a corporate role. I was doing it like, hey, I'd really like to do this on the side to at least stop having to work so much at a second job and provide, because my wife stayed, we just, you know, she wanted to stay home and we, you know, we're making that happen. But I was trying to find something that made sense. And I would always wanted to run my own business and tried a bunch of different things. And I went to school for accounting and this just kind of made sense. Didn't know how to do any of the small business accounting. I actually was in operational roles in my corporate career, but not in you know, full-fledged accounting departments. So this aspect of it was new. But I had messaged Megan and Megan and Sherry and said, hey guys, I'm really struggling. I really need, like, I think I'm going to give up. I think this is it. And they were like, have you really tried though? Like, have you actually committed? Like, eat dinner, don't see your wife and kid, like just keep going, like actually commit to doing the hard work. And I hadn't. And they said, why don't you just make that a plan for the next month, commit and say, hey guys, I'm going to eat and run and see you later, but I'm going to go do this, you know, and doing the hard thing because on the other end of it, it's going to be something really good for your family. And come to 2023, I had worked with the coaches. I'd worked with Cameron Montgomery, which you know, Sherry and Megan have on pretty often, and he's been instrumental in my business. I've done some B&Is locally, done some networking events, networking groups, but I focused in on Facebook marketing. So a little bit different than Abel and Cheryl, where that was my primary focus. Picked an industry to be specific in that I was already serving some clients in. So I'm in the insurance brokerage space. And that was instrumental because I was able to hyper focus on that industry, find ways that I could help them, you know, in other areas, because, you know, bookkeeping can be bookkeeping, right? It can be very standard across industries in a lot of ways, but then you find the nuances to certain industries and you're like, oh, wait, I can help you with this. And you start figuring out ways that you can actually serve them better because you're focusing on their industry and asking questions and being, you know, really just integrating yourself into their business. And, so just growing. So I grew all my business. I have a few clients that I met outside of Facebook, but most of my business I've grown through organic marketing on Facebook, not paid ads, just organic marketing. Cameron will talk about it. Check him out. I mean, it's my shameless plug. He's awesome. You know, in addition to the coaches, I think he's in the course now. I can't remember. I think they put him in there, I believe.
He's got, yeah, I think he's got at least one video in the course, and
Okay.
we have him on the live and stuff all the time.
He's great.
He focuses on the marketing part, if people don't know, sort of thing, and or the organic online marketing part, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think he gets to the paid stuff later and all the other aspects, but he just, you know, just the organic marketing has been really instrumental for my business. In fact, I sent out, part of the process is, you know, reaching out and just connecting with people. And I remember having one of my largest clients to date. I have 22 clients. They're my largest client to date. And I met them just through send a message, never heard back from him, was just trying to connect. And he thought I was an insurance agency because he coaches other insurance agencies. And he thought I was one reaching out for coaching. So we got started and he's like, oh, wait, what do you do? And so it just started and that's how it happened. And it was, it's just, and we've been able to work and do so many wonderful things together. And it's been cool to see their business grow and such. So I'd say, just having the support of the coaches, being able to bounce things off of from just basic, like, hey, I'm running into the payroll issue. I can't figure it out. I've, been racking my brain and just like, can somebody just take a look at it? Those kinds of things are so helpful. And then also, from the standpoint of, man, I lost a client. That sucks. Losing a client sucks. It really does. Right. Even today, I have one leave. They're going to be done this month. And that was a blow to me. I had no idea. Right. But it was one of those things where it's like, they're just making a decision based on where their business is at. But it's hard because it was just one that I wasn't even, we have such a great relationship. We've done wonderful things, been with me for 3 years. Right. And so you're like, oh, what did I do wrong? And, you look back and there's going to be things you can pick out, right? I got too busy, whatever the case may be. But having the coaches on the other end of that saying, hey, that happens. Hey, that's, how do you work through that? What's your next step? Are you going to let that bring you down? Feel it for a minute, but then move on. Don't let it be, don't let it be the catalyst to your week. So having that, because I think at one point I had 26 clients, overall, if I maybe 20, if we were to add all the clients together, I've lost a couple of clients here and there, but overall, the tenure of clients has been really wonderful. But just to have that from the coaches and being able to, I know Cheryl and Abel and Chelsea have talked about, the mindset. And the mindset from them, I haven't made a whole lot of the mindset calls, but I know the content is wonderful. But just the mindset, even when you're doing one-on-one with the coaches and you're like, hey, listen, just think about, I had Sherry tell me not too long ago, hey, you need to schedule some time off. I agree. I need to schedule some time off. I'm working like a madman. But just having that from the coaches is wonderful because in 2023, I made a really scary jump. I finally said, okay, I'm to the point where my business has grown a lot because I was building it up on the side when I was working my corporate role. And it was to the point where I was like, oh, I'm not really doing as great of a job in my corporate role. And there's some things suffering over here. I got to jump, even though I wasn't ready. If you look at the finances and you look at that, right, I wasn't ready, but I knew if I didn't jump, I was not going to serve my clients well and it wasn't going to grow. It was that, you were at that threshold. And so having the coaches there when you made that jump, I mean, from that point on, the business, propelled forward so fast. And so just knowing that you have coaches support, people in the community of the group is just so nice because that you have other people that did the same thing, or at least they're maybe they're in the same thing, so you can resonate with them. But to be able to have that and say, I'm really scared. I don't know if this is going to work. And you're like, of course it's going to work. Look at what you just did, and you pause and look back and you're like, okay, you're right. And having them as a sounding board, having them as, coaching you along is so invaluable. And it's been instrumental in my business. And, I can't say enough about, just being part of the group and being able to have them and know it's a very comforting feeling knowing like, hey, if I run into something that I'm just totally stumped on, they're here and it's nice. But also not being afraid to, I've even built a relationship with CPAs locally. And so it's nice to be able to say, hey, we're working with this one client. What do you think? And so don't be afraid to do that either. I know sometimes it can be intimidating with CPAs early on, like, oh, I don't know if I should talk to them. I don't know if I should. And like, they want the same thing for the clients that you're serving. And so something to remember is it's okay to talk to them. They're just normal people. Cause I remember feeling that a little bit early on, like, oh, I'm going to sound dumb. I'm going to sound like an idiot, asking this question. And it's like, no, you're going to just do it the right way. And so those relationships are really great. So, I guess that's probably it.
And if the CPA is one that's like not as rude and standoffish when you do ask, that's one you don't want to work with.
You don't want to work with them
because they're going to be like that with your clients too, sort of thing. So
you do with clients. If you have clients that you're talking to, just remember you don't have to work with them. You can make the call to not, I've made the call to let clients go, and I've made the call to not work with particular clients. And also this is another thing when you're talking to clients. This is something that I just thought of. I remember the coaches talking me out of signing a client because he wanted to continue to discount. Like he said, well, this bookkeeper's doing it for this much. And I'm like, let me go back and look at the pricing just to make sure. And then I brought it to the coaches and they were like, that's fair. I mean, if the other bookkeeper's willing to do it for that cheap, you don't want to work for that guy. And I remember, and it was earlier on, so it was a larger client and it was a larger cleanup job. But, you know, it was something where the cleanup, you know, was multiple years, and this bookkeeper wanted to do it for $1,000 or $2,000, like something crazy. Like, no, nope. And it wasn't a small business; it was a larger business, and you know, the coaches being able to talk through that, even though the monthly rate was high. You know, I think it was probably, you know, when I say high, it was probably $1,000 a month client. Like, it's a big client, right? It's a pretty good size client for anybody. You know, it's nice to have, but and early on, especially, right, where you're like, oh man, $1,000 a month client, that's a big deal. Not that it isn't now, but you know, as you get going, you start seeing where, you know, where's my real value in bringing on clients like that. And so being okay with saying, hey, this is not going to be a good fit, and I know in the long run I'm just going to be looked at as a commodity and not a partner in their business. And that's so vital, because they can go find a bookkeeper at a discounted rate, but can they find the right partner for their business? And that's having the coaches be able to even talk you out of things is so valuable, because they can say, you know, is this really going to serve you well in the long term for your business? So
Yeah, and that's a hard thing to get past sometimes, saying like, I don't think we're the best match. It's a hard thing.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned pricing sometimes, and sometimes that's a hard thing. It's hard for people. I know with my pricing, I always tell them I'm not the cheapest. You can go find someone cheaper, but you probably don't want someone cheaper. But I'll also tell them I'm not the most expensive. I try to be in that middle ground. That's where you want to be. You go have a CPA do it, they're gonna probably charge more than me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, even my area, you want to have your minimum price, and that's fine. And everyone's minimum price is gonna be a little bit different for where they are locally, because I know like a New York person's minimum price is gonna be more than mine being in Missouri, sort of thing. But finding your value and making it so you're not making $7 an hour. You're not in the business here to be doing that. That's not why you started your business. So we definitely can help with that whole pricing. You mentioned the quoting calculator, which we have with the blueprint and everything. And that thing is so detailed. Sherry did a great job I don't think I still have everything figured out on that coding calculator.
Exactly the same way. I'm like, wait a second, how do I calculate that? Because I was messing with it the other day. I need to probably ask Cheryl or Sherry. I don't know why I keep wanting to call her Cheryl. Ugh. Like, really?
Yeah.
Had me for how long?
Yeah, Sherry did a great job with that. I have a very simple one that I use, but it's basically, hers is that on steroids sort of thing. It goes into very detail. I was just the co-working call before this. We had someone on there that was new. She's like, what questions do I ask when I get on with a potential? And I'm like, go look at the quoting calculator. Look at what you need to be putting in there, and that will give you some of those questions, sort of thing. And she's like, oh, that's a great idea. Like, I'd given her some things, but that'll give you some more. And it really does help. And sometimes you'll put something in there and it's like, this doesn't seem right. And that's when you could jump on a call. We're always happy to jump on a call with quoting. Even like, you can jump on the group mindset. You can jump on a call for one-on-one mindset, and you can do the same thing for quoting, sort of thing. And we'll be like, well, if you change this number, I think this number really should be this. And then it's like, oh yeah, that looks a lot better. I've had that before too. And then adjusting it, like you said, you've focused in on those insurance brokers, adjusting it for things that you know are a little more in tune for that. And I know you've niched down a lot. Or do you have other clients? Are all your clients now insurance, or do you have a few that are random other things?
Yeah, I have a few there. So I have one in construction, two in construction, one in the lead space, but they happen to be one of my broker clients, and so they started another business.
You find that sometimes people who start businesses like to start other businesses.
Right. I had some in the virtual assistant business at one point. I've had some in the couple of different ones, but yeah, so a little bit different industries. Most of them, though, majority. So I have 22 clients at the moment, and I'd say, I think 18 or 19 of them are insurance brokers. So definitely heavy in the insurance broker space, and it's been good. But
And that's helped you with your marketing, because you have your marketing very specific for them because you've niched down to that like that.
exactly, yep.
Which is
Yeah.
a great. Cheryl and Abel, are your client, have you like niched down to anything like that, or your clients more like a broad sort of thing?
I
Either
haven't
way is
niched
fine.
down, but apparently I'm going towards the direction of mental health counselors.
Sometimes
That's
your niche happens to you, not
yeah,
choosing to.
right. It's being chosen for me as of right now.
That happens sometimes.
So
And
same, like I haven't niched myself. I don't know, like women-owned businesses is not really a niche, but it is.
it kind of is. It
That's
can
who I
be.
surround myself with. But well, it's not a really tight niche. And like Abel said, like I just seem to have a lot of realtors and a lot of photographers. So I just have, they just keep, because once you get into one kind of,
Get to know. Yeah.
here she is, once you kind of get into one space, they just refer you, because almost all of my clients have been referrals now. Like they just referrals from existing clients. So I had one like real estate agent refer in their brokerage, just keep referring. So
Yeah.
mostly that.
And like the niching down can be very successful and help you there. And then you also can not niche down. I did kind of I never called it my niche. I called it my specialty because I would help almost anyone, but my specialty was real estate investors. So like me and my team knew how to do that when not everyone does, sort of thing. So, but I know last time I talked to Cameron is very big about niching down, but he actually told me, he's like, you shouldn't niche down to an industry. You need to niche down to your area, sort of thing, which is another type of, which I think is probably more of what you two have done, since you've done a lot of in-person networking. You're more niching down to your area,
Right.
sort of thing.
Right.
But you also have to know to where to say no. Like I have that, like I will tell people up front, I will not help nonprofit and I will not help cannabis. And I'll be like, my team just doesn't have training on like nonprofit and following grants and stuff like that. So I'm not going to do that. I can find someone to help you. That's a great thing about this community. You can find someone else to help them. And the cannabis just has so many restrictions. We do have coaches that have some of that training and stuff, but there's special training for that sort of thing too, because there's so many restrictions. But knowing when to say no is a hard thing to learn, but it's a needed thing, sort of thing too. I've done that.
Well, and I have learned, like, that's one of the things like you get from coaches is like Abel said, like or maybe it was you, Jeremiah, where they're like, you can say no to that client. You don't have to work with everybody, because when you start out, you think you do. And then the universe is going to show you, they're going to teach you that lesson in a very hard way that you're like, I should have said, like, you have that feeling. And then you're like, something happens and you're like, man, I should have said no to this client. So I'm like, you're going to learn that lesson one way or the other. So you can just take the advice from the coaches and do it before you get tangled up. And you're like, it's a challenging extrication process, I guess, from that.
Yeah. It's a long road if you don't say no up front, for sure. Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes you gotta
It's
learn
like your
that
parents.
lesson.
You're like, we're having to learn, and you're like, the parents are like, I told you not to do this, and you're like, sometimes you just have to learn the hard way, and you're like, darn it, I should have listened. But
It's so true. Isn't that funny? Because you really,
right.
like, I will never do it again if I can help it, at least on purpose. There may be some
Right.
rights here and there, but where you got to adjust, but learning the hard way stays with you.
Right. And I think for people like that are on the call, like that's also just part of having a small business. Like, even though you have coaches and you have this, like, there's still things that you just have to learn, and every business goes through that. And that doesn't make you a bad business owner. It doesn't make you like not worthy of this, but you just there's no easy road in life for everything. Like there's always going to be an obstacle at some point or something that you're going to have to overcome. And it's just the way it is. You just got to get through it.
Not easy. This
Right.
is not come easy. Yeah. That's so good.
Right.
It might not, but it's worth it.
Oh, it's so worth it.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
So worth it. But don't by no means think it's easy. Having support makes it doable, but it's if anybody ever says, "Oh, it's easy," just take I've seen some others out there, and they're like, "Just do this course and you'll be great." It's like maybe, but it's hard.
Yeah. Some people will tell you it's so easy, and I mean, it can be straightforward and everything, but it's going to be work. You still have to work at it, sort of thing, and you have to get past.
Like in my area, there's actually a lot of bookkeepers where I'm at. I mean, I'm in a large metropolitan area, so of course there is a lot of there's a lot of everything where I am. But I think I just differentiate myself, and one, I'm a people person, so I do a lot of in-person networking. I meet with people locally, like we'll meet at coffee shops to go over their books or their statements or those kinds of things. But I'm not for everyone. Some people aren't looking for that. They're not looking for have a relationship, having this kind of personal connection, which does make it hard, like you said, Jeremiah, when you lose a client, because you're like, but we're friends, and you're like, but it's business. But not everybody is looking for that. There's another bookkeeper in my area that he is very not personal at all. There's almost no interaction with him. He leans on heavily, he's very open about that. I use a lot of technology. I use a lot of AI. That is how I do my books. And some people that works for. So it's just the same thing. I'm not it's also, you have to be okay with, I'm not the bookkeeper for everyone, and that's okay. And everyone is not the client for me, and that's okay. And it all works out. There's enough work for everyone to go around. There's millions and millions of small businesses in the United States. We don't have to be competitive. We can be I'm not for you, and we can just, people are different, and that's fine. So there's space for everybody.
Yeah, there's so many businesses, and there's always new businesses opening up, sort of thing. So
I've even had referrals come back to me for people that I said, "Hey, I can't help you, but hey, go talk to this person. They're great. They'll take care of you." And that same person that I don't even have as a client has referred people to me. And you're like, it's one of those things in business where you're like, this is, but it's just how you can handle yourself in a really wonderful way, where you're just treating people like, "Hey, can't help you. I won't serve you well, but Chelsea's the expert, when it comes to real estate, but you should talk to her. This is what she does all day, every day." Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that people see, other business owners see that, and it can really come off in a quality way.
Yeah. They trust you more because they know you're thinking of them, sort of thing.
Exactly.
Well, does anyone have any last questions before? I think this was a great call, but if we have any last questions for anyone before, we have just a couple minutes left. Thank you, all of you, for telling your stories and sharing with everyone. As you can see, everyone comes from different backgrounds, but you definitely can make this work with support and everything. And if you're watching this later on the recordings, feel free to put a question below, and I'm sure someone will jump in and answer for you. But otherwise, thanks again for coming on, telling your stories. It was great.
Thank you.
Other people's stories, sort of thing.
Jeremiah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet both of you. It was nice hearing your stories too.
I know, I was gonna say, I've seen the name. Well, Abel and I have talked, but I've seen names in the group, and so now it's just nice to put a face to a name.
Yeah.
It really is. I haven't done a whole good job connecting this year. I've been so busy that I've done a bad job at that, but it's always nice to connect,
It's a good community. So thank you.
It really is.
Yeah. Otherwise, thank you for everyone for coming on, and have a great day, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
y'all.
You too. All right. Bye, everyone.